Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Disruptive Author. Today, I'm excited to be interviewing the lovely Annette Dersham, and we're talking about probably a range of things, but specifically traditional media and the value of awards. So, welcome, Annette.
Thank you, Deborah. It's one of my favourite subjects.
Yes, I know. We have talked about this a little bit before, and I feel your passion for particularly the awards, and for women putting themselves out there, just having that courage to put themselves out there and raise the bar.
Oh, absolutely. It's, we've talked before about how hard it is to put yourself out there. And sometimes you just need someone to shine the spotlight on the path and go, do this, and then this will happen.
Totally. So we're going to get into that. But first, I just want to ask you to tell us about your author journey. I've got a couple of your books here, and I know you've got another one.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've got a few here as well.
So I see this was your first one, wasn't it? Be Your Own Publicity Genie. Was that your first one?
That was my first one. So that was like going, okay, I'm not quite ready to put myself out there. I'll just like talk about what I do. So that was,
and this is great. It's like a great workbook, isn't it?
I remember my husband looking at it going, he said, oh, do you want me to read it? And I handed it to him. He opened it up and he went, oh, it's a workbook. That's a bit boring. And I was like, well, maybe it's not for you.
Maybe you're not my target audience.
Yes, that's right.
So the other one that I've got here is the one that we published, Finding the Story Within.
With the amazing Trish Springsteen.
Co-authored, that's right, with Trish. So that's full of good stuff as well.
And
you've got a couple since then?
I have. Here it is. My lovely bookcase. So I did this one. This was an anthology that I did. Yeah, it's really very powerful. It's called I Fly. So it's really stories of, difficult things that have happened in your life. And I wrote a very personal story about something that happened in my family when I was 10, 12 years old. Yeah. And then that really motivated me to go, oh, actually, I think I've probably got something to share. So then I published this tome, which is How to Eat a Shit Sandwich and Keep Smiling. So this is my memoir. This is the first 25 years of my life, what shaped me and the adult that I became. Wonderful. And then last year I teamed up with the Australian community and wrote a story in here called Courage and Confidence.
Oh, good. Nice cover. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cover. So I just shared the story of how you've got to be the hero of your own story. If you want to shine, you've got to put yourself first.
Yes, yep. And be a leader in your own life.
Absolutely. Because how do you get people to listen to you if you don't believe in you?
Totally. Conviction is what sells. So was being an author something that you had dreamt of from an early age? Because I know you've got a background in journalism. Or was becoming an author, I mean, you become a published author when you a journalist, but writing books will distinguish. Was that something you ever wanted to do, or did that just happen by accident?
No, absolutely. I have been a bibliophile since I could hold books in my hand, like I've always lugged around boxes and boxes of books and said one day I'm going to write a book. And I think my challenge is that I could never really work out what I wanted to write about because I'm so eclectic in what I read. I love fantasy, I love detective novels, I love nonfiction, I love memoirs, and it was like, I don't know what to do. So, going to journalism really helped because then I could just write about just about anything and everything. So I guess it really wasn't until I wrote, How to Be Your Own Publicity Genie that I went, oh, okay, this is a pretty powerful tool. I might have another swing at this.
Yeah. And I just think you're a natural storyteller. So we've talked about this before too. I love with all your posts, there's so much thought and intention in what you do write. And that in itself, I think, is an absolute art. Can you tell us why? So based on your background, can you tell us why an author might want to develop strategic relationships with traditional media? So a journalist like yourself, why would an author sort of reach out to someone like yourself?
Because there's power in other people's platforms, particularly the media. I mean, we still as dribbly as what some mainstream media can be. I think that's a new word to describe the media, dribbly. That might conjure up all types of vivid images in your head. But they've got the audience that authors are seeking. I mean, like when you start the author journey and you're talking about how am I going to push this out there, you really have got your network, and that's incredibly valuable. That's where you start. You start with the people who know and love you, and then you've got to ripple that out, because if you really want your book to go bestseller, or, you know, if not even that, for people to read it because you've got something valuable to say, you've got to get it in the hands of the people who can be your mouthpiece, and getting it into mainstream media is the ultimate and third-party credibility, because the big difference between marketing and advertising and PR, marketing advertising is saying, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. And, you know, what do we do when we hear people talking about themselves like that? We roll our eyes and we go, yeah,
switch off. Yeah.
But when someone says, you know, Annette Dersham's the journalist, you know, I've read this book, it's amazing, this is what it's about, you should really read Deborah's book. Then people go, oh, okay, well, you know, I really trust what that person has to say. If they're recommending it, then I'm going to have a look at it. So, you know, if you don't want to be the best kept secret, then you've got to promote what you do.
Would you call that social proof?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Social proof, word of mouth, credibility. It's all of those things that we require as human beings to justify the decision that we make if we're going to part with our hard-earned money and buy a book or buy a service or product or whatever that is we want to know that we're not going to be gypped, and we want to know that it's actually got value for ourselves and for our lives or our circumstances. So having social proof is the absolute ultimate, I think, in any marketing experience that we undertake.
So even looking through your book, The Publicity Genie, and having done, you know, workshops with you in the past, it's a little bit time consuming to actually put stuff together and to put it out there. So it's something that you need to make time for. Where would an author start if they wanted to learn the most effective way to gain attention from traditional media?
Okay, well, they could start with that awesome book on your desk, How to Be Your Own Publicity Genie. The first thing that I suggest that people start with is really work out who their audience is. You know, and I would imagine if you've written a whole book, you've got a pretty good idea of who you want to read that book.
That would be
ideal. Because then you know what media you need to approach to get in front of that audience. So you are
so who they're listening to, who they're watching.
That's
who they're reading.
So let's say, you know, my book, How to Eat a Shit Sandwich, not really 6 o'clock news material, given the word that I use in the title, but perhaps something like, you know, like your podcast, or, you know, a mainstream women's publication that deals with issues around the topics that are in my book. That was who I approached about who should promote my book. So by understanding your target audience, you can then understand your media's target audience, so that when you pitch the story to them, they go, this person understands who we're talking to, will give them that opportunity to be able to share their message. So that's the first step. And I think the next step is to get really clear on what your key messages are around your book. What are the key topics that you really want to drive home to your audience so that it captures their attention? Like, whilst the blurb on the back is really good, and, you know, someone who loves books, I spend a lot of time reading the back of books and going, okay, but seeing some promotion around that and other people talking about it with those key points is what will draw me in even further, because it's like, oh, it's a little bit like Hansel and Gretel, you know, trying to find their way home and dropping those breadcrumbs. That's what you want to be doing as an author, is dropping breadcrumbs the whole process, not just when you've published the book, but before you publish. Like, I sold 200 books before I'd even printed my books, because I just kept talking.
The ideal way to do it, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then when I published my book, I had a big launch party, sold even more. And even now, a year and a half on, I just keep talking about it. I keep sharing it with, you know, different media and different platforms, because it's an important book. I think people should read it. So why would I keep that a secret?
Totally. So what is a good outcome for an author that's looking for that attention from the media? What's a good outcome to expect?
Oh, yeah, that's such a good question, because expectation and perception are different for everybody. So a good outcome for one person is going to be different for another person. But ideally, what you'd like to get is some book reviews. You'd like to get, someone well known, or even maybe not. They don't even have to be famous or well known from this level of the media, but for your target audience, if, say someone like Tracy Spicer read my book and then said, oh my gosh, this is a really great recollection of the 90s in the media industry. And I was like, that's winning. Like, that was totally worth all the money that I invested in promoting that. It might be an article in your local paper, particularly if you live in a regional or a small suburban area that still has a print publication or even an online publication dedicated to your area. They love stories of people who are doing great things in their community. So that would be a great win. Getting on podcasts, like being interviewed by you or other people who are in your space, that's a great win. So I think it's really important that when you go into that promotion, that you work out what is a good win for you, what you ultimately want, but that you're also realistic. Because I think if I got paid $1 every time someone said to me, I want to be on the project, and I was like, yeah, you and like 700 million other people want to be on the project. Is that your right audience? The ego says yes, but in terms of, getting, interaction and connection with your audience, it may not necessarily be the best thing. So, and the volume of your wins will also depend on your expectations. And I think it's really important for people to know that, like, one win is nice, but if you want to continue that, the rolling effect of the PR for your book is that every month you should be looking at doing something that enables you to be speaking your message somewhere. So I think if you get in your local paper, you've got some, podcasts, you've got a great review from people. If your book has got national, international implications, then, some, larger national mainstream media coverage. ABC Radio, particularly in regional areas, love interviewing. My friend today, Amy, is on ABC Radio talking about her award win at the Osmompreneur Award up in Darwin. Wonderful. So she will be loving that. Her audience will be loving that. But here's the kicker. You've got to leverage your win. Yes. So you may get your article in your local paper and, a handful of people see it, but that's just a handful of people at the moment. The news cycle is 24/7, every second something new is happening. So if you really want to remain in the, front of mind of your audience, is that you want to take that link and you want to share it in social media, on your website, your newsletters, send it to your family, bribe them to share it with their networks, so that you get that broader reach.
And I think, what's key there is what you just said, if you want to stay front of mind. So for me, I think a good outcome is actually positioning yourself so that there is a rolling effect to what you do put out, and leveraging it, because it does take so much time and effort to put together press releases and to, build those relationships with people, especially you want to be authentic, or people aren't going to listen to you. They're not going to care what you're doing, seriously. Yeah. So I think that's really important. Can you tell us what you're actually focusing on now? Because I feel like you've certainly gone beyond traditional media. You're sort of focusing in on a specific area now?
Yeah, so a big part of what we've, 10 years in PR, running my own business, 35 plus years in journalism and corporate comms. I've seen the media industry change a lot over the years, particularly the last, 5 to 3 years. That didn't even make sense. 5, 3, 2 years. Good thing I'm a writer and not a mathematician. And it's getting harder and harder to get into mainstream media, mainly because there's such a fixation on influencers and TikTok videos and reels, and you only need to go to like news.com.au and open up their homepage and just see the trollop that they're covering. The news now quite often really has no substance. It's become reality TV. So what we did a couple of years ago was really looked at what was working really well. And for us, we found for our clients is that by creating like a calendar of stories, what are the things that you really want to share over a 12-month period with your audience? And then going and actually laser targeting specific publications, offering to write for them, get your byline out there, write, content of substance that draws people in and builds a relationship with them. Things like Medium are a really great tool to use. Online distribution platforms where you can get your story syndicated to Fox News and places like that, which, make people go, oh, actually, that's really interesting. I need to read that. So we've gone from that real media release scattergun approach where you might write a release and send it to 20 media and then just hear nothing, is that we just write a specific story. We pitch that story to one publication and we tend to get it published because they go, you obviously get us, our audience, you write how we write, and the topic is spot on with, the essence of what it is that we do. So we find that works a lot better. And over 12 months, you end up with, these 12 to 24 different articles and links that you can then use to build your profile and your brand. Because, let's face it, building a brand is hard work. It takes a long time. It's not an overnight thing. But what it also is, it's an opportunity for you to really build relationships and know, like, and trust. And if you're consistently putting stuff out there, if not every week, every month to your audience, they're going to go, I really like Annette. She always has good stuff to say. She shares stuff. Her article in Koshi's Business Builder about this topic was really insightful. I hope that's what people are saying.
Well, you would know by the response that you're getting, wouldn't you? Is it building your network?
Absolutely. I know from just from our personal business, like the Audacious Agency, I think we grew by 40% in the last 12 months because both Lauren and I consistently show up and share, and neither of us really want to. Who really wants to be, daily posting on social media and writing articles? Sometimes I'd really rather just be reading a book. But I understand that, we live in a fickle world. It's really easy to fall from, front of mind as quickly as it is to rise. So you have to be persistent and consistent with your content. But I also know since we changed the process of what we do, after COVID hit and we went, oh my God, what are we going to do? That our clients' business growth is just extraordinary, like 30, 40, 50% growth just by organically creating content every week and pitching that out to the media, being on podcasts and entering awards. It works. It works.
And that's what they want to see, where it's working, not just here. We can do this, we can do that. That people want to see it.
Yeah, and I think what's really important is that we do live in the age of instant gratification. You want everything now. I want it now. There's a really great comedian called Ronnie Chan, and he's got this skit about Amazon, and he says, the next step that Amazon can do is they can actually chew my food and they can put it into my mouth so I don't have to chew my food. I want it now. And that's almost what I feel the world that we live in. People come to us and they go, oh, I've got to pay that much to do this. Can't we do it quickly? No, you can't. It's like a good marriage or a good friendship. Doesn't happen overnight. You've got to build on it. You've got to, show up. You've got to give value. You've got to insert yourself into the story for people to want to buy your stuff, because, no one's going to just hand over money because you've had one article in a newspaper. And a lot of people think, oh, I had that story in the news. Why isn't my business going nuts? Because the media are showing us these stories of these unicorn businesses who, go from zero to hero in, 10 minus 2 seconds. And it's not the reality. That's not reality. It's hard work. You've got to invest. You've got to put the time in, and
You've
but
got to
it
have a
does.
plan. You've got
Got
to,
to have a
follow
plan.
through. And I guess that too, and this is where I think that I think always that you were going to do well, being authentic when you're just yourself, not perfect, not, um, just being yourself is so important, because you can't sustain that level of commitment if you're putting on, some sort of false bravado or something. It all has to be consistently authentic, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I know. I see, so many fabulous women out there, and I see them getting these headshots, and I'm like going, I don't even know who that is, because it just so totally doesn't look like them. And if you go to my headshots, I pretty much look the same. I may have brushed my hair, put a little bit of makeup on, but it's me. There's nothing that you would go, that doesn't look like her. And I'm also very aware of my own fallibilities and flaws and mistakes that I make. So I'm really careful when I'm, if I'm going to have a whinge about someone not paying invoices, that I check my own privilege first and go, do you pay your invoices on time, Annette?
Yeah.
No, you don't. So shut up. So I think it is important to just be yourself, because people like you for who you are. And, why try and be someone that you're not? Because when someone meets you in person, many years ago, I worked for a CEO with a fairly large organization, and her headshots were so old. Like, she put on 15 kilos and she was, 10 years older, but she was still using the same headshots. I remember at my peril, I said to her one day, I really think that maybe you should update your headshots, because when I send them to the media and you show up to do a talk, I've had a journalist go, oh, I was a bit worried that was the wrong person. Oh. So, don't let ego get in the way. Like if you, I know I've just lost a lot of weight, but I still tried to show up even when physically I went, but don't anybody look at me, I'm fat, I'm ugly, don't look at me, because that's still authentic in itself. Just, as much as you can, love yourself and love where you're at. Don't be afraid to share what your journey is, because there's so many people who relate and they'll love you for it.
I did a blog last week about comparisonitis and just sort of was writing about when you do get caught up in that. So something that I do is just put those blinkers on and just stay in my own lane. Just do what I'm here to do. That's all I can do. I can't be what I think I need to be for everybody else. I can only be me. It's just too hard to be anything else.
It is, because eventually you'll slip and someone will catch you, or you'll be in an event and you'll say something, and and that's something that I've been learning, because I've got a really dark, sarcastic side, and I think a lot of people think I'm all joy and sunbeams, and I'm not. I swear a lot, and I can be really, really, quite scathing of things. So I'm like making sure that that's coming through now, because someone who I admired many years ago told me to pull back on that aspect of myself, because people wouldn't like it. And for so long, like the first 5 years of my business, I really felt like I had on the wrong skin, because I was comparing myself to other people, and I was listening to this person who I thought had my best interests at heart. And when I started to articulate how I feel about certain things, except for maybe the monarchy, I should have kept that to myself. But
okay.
there are things that, like, it's like, this is part of me, and this is what makes me really good at what I do, because I have this depth and these facets, and share that with people. Because really, maybe I should have kept that post up that I took down, but out of respect. But sometimes your opinion is just as valid as the next person's, and why shouldn't you articulate that? And I find that if you're firm in who you are and your sense of self, then, like, I don't get trolled very much. I don't think people would be game, because I'd probably just go, in
Yeah.
my, Lauren says my superpower is telling people to fuck off without them actually realizing that I've done that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm
Yep.
so diplomatic and tactful.
And you've got
But,
the words. Yep.
and I've got the word, I just
Yeah.
use big words and people go, okay, it's
Yeah.
all right.
I think when you do just express yourself fully, and I'm very, I guess, cautious about that. I've always been a very cautious person when it comes to expressing myself. But I think when you have that courage, and as you say, when you're strong within yourself, you can do that and make space for other people to be different. But what happens, I think, is that those people who are your people, they just love you more, and those people who aren't your people fall away.
Yeah,
So I think it actually works in our advantage. It just takes courage to do, doesn't it?
absolutely. And we're all people pleasers, like I don't think
Especially us
anyone has,
girls. Yes.
especially us girls, we've been brought
Yeah.
up to accommodate others. And,
Yeah.
sometimes it takes some of us longer, there's a new word, longer
Oh, dear.
to work out that the person you need to please first and foremost is yourself. And then everything else will fall into line. And it's a very wise friend of mine once said, Annette, people are going to love you or hate you, and it's got nothing to do with you. And it
Nothing.
was like, oh, mind blown, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the same with social media and promoting your book. There's going to be people out there who've got their opinions, and they may be crackpot opinions or they may be legit, but they're just opinions. If you're firm in, you're just doing good, you're doing your best, and you're showing up to help and serve other people in the best way that you know how, you go, look, I can't tell you how many I'm so far behind in so many jobs at the moment. I'm sure I've got clients who think I'm the worst person on the planet, but I'm honest and I say, this is what's going on. It's taking us a little bit longer, that people forgive you and they give you space to be able to rise and settle into where you need to be.
And that's about setting expectations too, isn't it? When people understand and they know what to expect, there's no gap there for them to go, what's going on? Yeah. They're just communicating authentically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've you've nominated for a lot of awards. You help your clients nominate for a lot of awards. I'm looking at all the awards behind you currently. Quite a few, yes, and up above you as well. So how would an author benefit from nominating themselves for an award, and where would you recommend they go to actually start dipping their toes in doing something like that?
There are so many incredible book awards out there. Like there's the Book Excellence Awards, the IPI Awards, the Australian Business Book Excellence Awards. The three just off the top of my head. I know that there are many. They're a great place to start, and they are often only about the book. So you don't have to go into your business and those type of insights. You just need to share what your book's about, who's published it. Send them a copy of your book, pay your entry fee, and then you go up against other people in your categories. If your book is tied to, say, your business, so like, if I wanted to enter How to Be Your Own Publicity Genie into a business award, then I would use that as just part of my overarching award application, because it's a marketing tool that I've created to go with my business. There are also a lot of general business awards that have Author of the Year or Publisher of the Year or Writer of the Year type of categories. The Stevie Women in Business Awards has got Book of the Year that people can enter. The Stevie Asia Pacific Awards have also got a publishing category that they can enter. So I guess it's really about coming back to that plan, getting clear on what it is that you want to accomplish through these different marketing channels that you use. So as an author, being able to put a sticker on your book that says, bestseller or winner of award is more social proof. So when people are, flicking through it on your website or flicking through on a bookstore, they look at that and they go, oh, because that perception of that sticker on there is quite often the thing that helps people decide, because we buy subconsciously. We may think that we're very conscious in our purchasing decisions, but more often than not, what we're looking for is that proof that makes us feel like that we've spent our money wisely and with the right people in it, and that it's safe. So yeah, I've got a list of book awards, and I'm more than happy to share, Deborah, that you can share with your wonderful authors.
Awesome.
Entry fees range from free all the way up to $400 US, depending on the award. Obviously, it depends on your appetite for risk and your budget appetite, to how much you spend on entering those.
And how much you believe in yourself too and what you've written. I think, for authors, if you don't have that conviction around what you've written and what you've got to offer through your book, something's wrong. So, I think, your conviction there is very important.
Absolutely. And isn't that funny that we would write a book and then not believe in our own book? It's not an easy thing to sit down and put, 50, 60 plus thousand words on a screen and then go through the process of publishing and editing and doing all of that.
And it's a hell of a process. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess too, the thing, is go back to leverage again. If you enter an award, don't not tell anyone.
Yeah.
I swear like 80% of our clients, even with our encouragement and here's what you do next, here's some tips on what you do, here's a checklist, they don't do them. They don't put on their website that their book's won an award. They don't put the sticker on their book. They don't go out to their database and say, hey, just letting you know my book, or they don't do a special and say, party time, I've just won the Australian Business Book Excellence Awards. If you want to see someone who's done really well with her book, Tracy Sheen, who won last year the Australian Business Book Excellence Awards for Technophobia, has gone on and done incredible things because she's just consistently leveraged, that win and that credibility and social proof with her audience that, she's asked to write and judge and, be part of a lot of amazing things, because
which keeps her front of mind for people.
Yep. Popped her head up and gone, this is really uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess even just having that conviction around your message and what you're trying to achieve. And I know with public speaking, for example, it's easier to speak in front of people if you're thinking about the audience and how you can help them rather than thinking about how you're doing. Am I doing this right? Am I looking right? Am I sounding right? If you're just concentrating on the audience, and I think that probably works with books as well, focus on the audience, focus on your message, focus on who you're trying to help and do your best to help them.
Absolutely. And that goes across any marketing or PR that you're doing, whether it's for your book or your business in general. If you keep coming back to how uncomfortable it makes you feel, how you don't like this or you don't like that, then you've kind of forgotten the reason that you're in business. Okay, yes, to make money, that's important. None of us are running a not-for-profit. Well, maybe some of us are, but most of us aren't. This is our livelihood. But when you remember the reason you started your business or you've written your book, because you've seen a problem, you've created a solution, and to get that solution into the hands of the people who need it, you've actually got to share with them that you've got it so that they know you exist. So if you can take yourself out of it and go, I'm not actually doing this because it's going to make me feel this way, awkward, uncomfortable, happy, excited, whatever that is, I'm doing it because I can help you. When you're pointing out that way, it's like far more powerful than then going, like that.
Yeah, totally. All right. So I feel like I was going to ask you about, how to leverage the award experience, but I feel like you've answered that with your response in the last question. So the last thing I'm going to ask is where our listeners can find you, should they want to reach out to you. And I know they will, because they're going to reach out and ask you for a list of the different book awards, and you're going to set up a little a mailing list and let people connect with you in that way. So where would that be?
So they can contact me through the audaciousagency.com or track me down on Facebook. I'm there. In fact, it's open right now. Just Annette Dersham. Actually, I think I'm called. If you just type Annette Dersham, I don't actually think there's another Annette Dersham that shows up. I think I'm one of a kind.
Okay, I think you might be.
Yeah,
and not just your name, not just in name.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So they can definitely find me through that. And on our website, if you go to the contact page, there's a link where you can make a time to speak with me for 20 minutes about anything that you want. It might be I've done this, what should I do next? Or I'm thinking of entering this award. What do you think of it? I'm more than happy to share what's in my head. If I don't know, I'll find out, because I really just want to see more people shining.
Totally. And I so resonate with that. Like, as we were saying before we started the interview, everyone can win. We just help everyone else. Everyone can actually win. We don't need to even compete.
Oh, absolutely. Collaboration is far more exciting than competition, and even
much more
entering
fun.
awards. Yeah, I mean, look, Lauren and I have entered a few awards in the last couple of months, and I think we, out of 4, we've won 1. We've made the finals, but we've only won 1. And it's a little disappointing because the value of what it is that you have. But we use the process to not just go, hey, here's our trophy, but to make connections with other human beings and to collaborate. Like, my cup is so full from those moments of interacting with other human beings and realizing that we can help each other through the process, even though we didn't win. Because you don't need to win everything. I just, which is weird for someone who enters awards to say, but I really
but
just
you don't. I don't feel like you enter them to win. You enter them for a whole range of reasons that is much bigger.
Yeah, winning is the icing on the cake, and that's awesome. There's no bigger buzz than standing on stage with your trophy in your hand and your heart pounding like this, and you thinking, oh my God, what am I going to tell these people to show my gratitude and my acceptance? But if you look at it as a holistic process of that winning is not just a trophy. There are so many different facets to winning in life and in business that doesn't involve standing on stage. So, if we can get over that absolute black and white of winning and losing to this spectrum of, what can I get out of this and what can the people I interact with get out of this, then it becomes a win-win-win.
Yeah, for everyone, totally understand. It's been an absolute delight talking with you today. Been far too long since our last conversation, and I intend to not leave it as long before we have another one. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. I believe you're heading off very soon to America is it for the Stevie Awards?
Stevie Women in Business Awards. Lauren and I are heading off with a few clients to Las Vegas, where we're going to celebrate and party and just enjoy the company of some amazing kick-ass women from around the world.
Yeah, some like-minded women. Very good. All right, my love. Thank you again. I will put those details up with the podcast and in the magazine where people can reach out to you. So expect some connections there, and I'll look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing you shining and sharing your message.
Beautiful. Bye for now.